Hi there, welcome to the Carnegie Historical Museum. I'm Mark Schaefer. Today is November 7th, I hope. I have a terrible time with dates. I think I'm right, within a couple of days anyway. This is on the top floor of the old Carnegie Library building across from the First National Bank here in Fairfield. We're having a two-part program this afternoon. It was going to be just on Parsons College, but Laverne Cedor has donated some things from his career in the Air Force during World War II and is donating his footlocker and some other things. And I thought it would be really nice if we got Laverne on camera and explained the ins and outs of some of these artifacts, some of which I think are pretty significant, and we feel very fortunate to have them donated to us. So Laverne, tell us about your Army career, or not Army, sorry. Whatever it was.
You realize this Army career wasn't by choice.
No, I'm sure it wasn't.
I did enlist, but the draft board was breathing down my neck, so it was a matter of one or the other. This is an Army footlocker.
Oh, so it is Army? Army Air Corps?
Army Air Corps.
Okay, well, all right.
The Air Corps
okay.
wasn't separate from the Army.
That's right, okay.
It was all, there was a Naval Air Corps and Army Air Corps.
Okay, so you were Army Air Corps.
And this is a footlocker. We kept underwear, this sort of thing, socks, all this. Most everything else was hung up on hangers. Nitpicky things during training especially as to just how this was done just so. The bottom line of all this, I'm saving some kids some problems of what to do with it one of these days. So
you don't want them to fight over it, right?
No, they were told that they could have anything they wanted. They better take it. If it wasn't, why, it was going to go. So it's going. I've still got a couple of cardboard boxes upstairs in the attic, but then I'm getting some. This was a helmet that I wore while we were flying combat over Europe. The oxygen mask, which of course had to fit tight on your face. This was very essential to longevity. About 3 minutes at 25,000 feet and you had it without the oxygen. Your lungs just don't have capacity to breathe that much. And the you don't feel anything. That is, it's completely painless. You don't gasp. You don't. You aren't aware that you have a problem. And all. It would be as painless a way to end it all as could be, would be to go up without oxygen, because it just, your lungs don't have the capacity to breathe enough oxygen. They run oxygen tests. Usually the bombardier, or in our case the Togolier. We did not have a bombardier. We were a wing crew, and our bombs were dropped when the lead ship dropped his. So our armor gunner took care of it. But anyway, every 5 minutes he called, well, he just called oxygen check. And of course he and the navigator were right there together. So he knew the navigator was all right. The pilots were sitting beside one another. The co-pilot, which was me, was usually on the group frequency, monitoring any information coming from the lead plane. The pilot was on intercom and would answer for both of us. Then on back the engineer, Balter, radio, waist, and the tail would all check in. They knew at that moment they were all right. Certainly wasn't foolproof, or it wasn't guaranteed that it would, but it was an attempt to check on people that they were still all right.
Now, are these like earphones here?
Yes, there's earphones, of course. In this, there's a microphone in the oxygen mask. Usually, on a deep penetration, the moisture in your breath would short this one out. So we also wore a throat mic. It's just clamped under your neck. Of course, we used this until we got to about 10,000 feet when we went on oxygen and all. But This, of course, the electricity has gone out of this, but this had to be tight enough around your neck to be a bit uncomfortable. It helped if you had a free hand, you could push it up tighter to your throat. But as a whole, it worked real well. Any questions, anytime. Don't hesitate to interrupt. And all that. Try not to
This is lined with leather, or is that a fabric?
No.
That's just the leather, isn't it? Okay.
It's just the leather, yeah.
Now, is this the number in there? Is that any significance?
I have no idea.
Okay, I thought maybe that was
51.
you. Thought that might be your number of
Oh,
some sort.
that was my last 4 numbers of my serial number in the S. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I hadn't even realized it was there. But my serial number is 775155, and this is an S5155. I didn't put it there. I don't know when it was put there. But it's...
Okay, so what else do you... We can set this down here in front if you want.
Okay. This is Army issue, a knife we were issued that we could carry if we wanted to. Dad had this knife made for me. I carried it part of the time. These are 50 caliber machine gun bullets. This is what our gunners fired. This is just the case. One of them slightly modified. It was a cigarette lighter. Somebody had made.
Yeah, you want to hold that up so the camera can...
Oh, made, well...
Is that just a nail in there?
I'm not sure. I know it was originally a cigarette lighter, but other than that, I couldn't tell you that much. Some of it's missing.
Oh, wow.
Just what that is. That's a screw. Huh, I don't know.
I wonder if it makes a spark when you pull it apart.
But that's, I say, something has happened to it.
Well, I know every once in a while you'll see great big shells that have been made hammered into vases and so forth.
Mess kit. I don't ever remember ever using it. Air medal. This.
Oh yeah, let's hold that.
All you
up.
had to do was survive 6 missions, and you got an air medal.
Yeah, hold that up so the camera can. Now we've got.
You don't know what that is. That's a ruptured duct.
Like
Discharge medal. Everybody was issued one.
and why do they call it a ruptured duck?
Don't ask me.
Basically, it's just a spread eagle with kind of a circle around it.
Something of the kind, but that's what it was labeled, was a ruptured
And then
duct.
where would that go on your uniform?
Oh, and just, you could, well, you see, this was out after we was out of
Afterward,
uniform.
okay. I didn't know. Thought maybe during the ceremony they would have you put it in
Oh.
a special spot.
There wasn't much in seminary.
Just
Things were
throw
thrown at
them
you.
out.
Yeah.
And then let's hold this up. This is a nice medal. It's here again an eagle with lightning bolts in its claws, surrounded by kind of a starburst.
But it,
Now, are those the colors of your squadron, or
no, I'm afraid not. No, that would be the color of the emblem. If you see, when you have a whole string of these on your chest, fruit salad is referred to.
okay?
Why then those color combinations meant the air medal.
Okay.
And then for each repetition, each 6 additional mission, why you put a cluster, an oak
okay.
leaf cluster,
Oh,
a
okay.
small cluster
Okay.
on it. It's nothing of very much significance. Copy of my old dog tags.
Now this is a prize. I think this is fascinating.
I had a whole bunch of these, but things have got out sometimes during the years and didn't all get put back and that. But this, we had escape packets, they called them. They were, and I don't know whatever happened to them. They had enough emergency food, supposed to last you a week, and these were the maps.
Now, is this on silk, or what is
It's
this?
silk or some kind of that, something of that nature.
Oh, is this? Yep. You got France upside down.
Oh, that could be. Yeah,
Here's the top. I've got the top. Okay, so this is a map of France,
and
and then you have England up there, up at the top.
just the corner of England.
And then a little code. Let's see, the key, it says coastal defense area is little stripes, southern boundary zone, is X's.
Well, here, there's another map on the back of it. I wonder why.
Now that has Stuttgart on it.
Oh, here
Is that Germany?
there's right side up. Yeah, that'd be Germany.
Okay, so Germany on one side and France on the other. And then hold up to the camera your list of missions.
These were the list of the raids
Right
we
here.
flew. We completed 25. It took 35 at that time to complete a tour, but we were a late crew, and we had 25 in when the war ended. We got home for 30 days, and I just reported to Sioux Falls, South Dakota to retrain in B-29s and go on to the Pacific when the Gap surrendered. There's been some tear-jerking in recent years about how terrible it was we used the atomic bomb. I've never been sorry that we didn't get to the Pacific. This was a belt. One time, I suppose it went around. But leggings that we were issued for some reason, I don't ever remember having them on. Same way, a harness for a backpack. Now, we had what we called a musette bag, and it had rings on it that you could have snapped this onto it on your back. And I don't know whatever happened to that musette bag, whether I even got home with it or not. I know we did use it when we went on pass and something of the kind. It had a strap you could put over your shoulder and carry it. It was enough to carry stuff you went on 48-hour pass or something. Why, we used it for that, but and as I say, I have no idea what happened to it. A book Basic Instrument Flying, tell you all about how to do it. And I don't know where I got this or where it ever come from, but this was from the last field we were at in the States. Before we went over.
You want to hold up one of those pictures so we can see? Like here's a picture of the instrument panel. And this is the kind of thing I think Ben Taylor illustrated during the war, wasn't it? Manuals of some sort he did it for the Navy. But you would have seen this kind of work
But
from him.
Probably at some time you have experienced to an extent vertigo, where you lose contact with the horizon. Okay, this comes through to you loud and clear. When you have a hood over you or you're flying in fog, you forget which side's up. And especially if you turn and then you quit turning, every sensation you've ever paid attention to tells you you're still turning. It's a weird.
I wanted to show him this cartoon, if the camera can focus on that. Did these little cartoons, did it introduce a little humor? Did that kind of lighten things up? Or
well, it helped attract your attention.
we need to hold it up again. Wait, let the camera get. Takes a while to find it sometimes. Let's get it vertical. But I didn't know if that sort of thing, if it really did make you chuckle, or if you kind of rolled your eyes and say, "Oh, get serious. This is not fun." That's a lot of stuff to keep track of.
Well, of course, and I remember correctly too.
Oh yeah, naturally.
No question. You can't challenge it. Okay, that's about it.
All right. Well, Laverne, we thank you very much. Yeah, we'll just keep this in here.
Look through it. If you have any questions, why?
Tell us about your insignia out there on your neck piece.
Oh, this is just. I've been going to 8th Air Force reunions for the last several years. In fact, I just got back first of this week from Savannah, Georgia. They have all kinds of this kind of stuff to separate you from your money. Anything most you could imagine. T-shirts, sweatshirts with 8th Air Force on.
And you were 8th Air Force, and what was your squadron? And
493rd Bomb Group, 861st Squadron. And I told you on that sheet, 93rd Wing, or 91st Wing, and it was a 93rd Wing.
Okay, we'll get that
Of
changed.
the 8th Air Force.
All right.
I was a co-pilot on the bomber crew.
And what was your rank?
I was first lieutenant.
Okay.
All you had to do was survive 15 missions.
What was your airplane? What?
B-17. Flying Fortress was, but B-17 was, see, the B-17 and the 24 were both very active, and the 24 more than the 17 in the Pacific. The 24 was a little faster, a little longer range, and then, well, I visited with Herb Johnson, flew in the South Pacific, and they put extra gas tanks in the top of the bomb bay, cut down their bomb load, but to give them more range. Of course, they flew over water almost exclusively. That is, as we go to these reunions, there's a lot of discussion back and forth between the 24 and the 17. They were comparable bombers, and of course, we all have our prejudice, and that till the 17 had the reputation of being able to take more abuse. The 24 had a lot more hydraulic system than the 17 did, which caused some problems. That is, well, if you broke a hydraulic line, you lost everything that was hydraulic. While if it was electric and it severed the electric wire, you just lost that component, which was one of the advantages, maybe. I don't know. The 24 had what was called a Davis wing, and I don't understand all I know about that, but as it lost speed, it lost efficiency rapidly. We lost an engine over Berlin and made it back on the 3, while I doubt if it's 24 could have flown that far on 3 engines, because they couldn't have maintained the speeds that gave them this efficiency. So, okay.
Well, Laverne, with
Thank you.
with Veterans Day coming up, I think this is a good day to do this, and we thank you for the part you played in making the world safe for democracy.
Thank you.
By golly.
I wanted to ask, have you seen the new toy for Christmas for Air Force Army vets? A flying fortress on top of your clock. You set the alarm, and the light comes on in the nose, and a tape plays a machine gun fire. Just wake you up in the morning.
I haven't seen that.
85 bucks. If you want to wish for Christmas, you got it.
I get publications from these reunions, you needn't worry. But this one, the propellers will turn, and the guns will fire.
Yeah.
The guns will fire.
That's part of it. Yeah.
But I don't think there's a clock involved with the particular one that I've seen recently. But there again, somebody dreaming up how to separate you from money all the time. Yeah.
Thanks a lot. All right, the next session or segment of the program is on Parsons College, and I think we're going to shut the camera down for a minute and get some things moved, and we'll have Betty Schwengels and anybody else, Fred Flintspaw, and anybody else that wants to jump in with some Parsons College remembrances. So we'll pick up here in a minute on that.
Parsons College for 4 years from 1936 to 1940, and taught there from 1963 to 1973 when the college closed. And I sometimes get mixed up as to which things go with when I was there as a student and which things go with when I was there as a teacher. This is one thing I want to be sure to talk about, though. I brought this back from Washington, D.C. a year or two ago, from a woman who used to work in Fred Schwindel's congressional office. And she sent me the story of it, that when she was working for Fred, when he was a congressman, that they were getting ready to adjourn at one time, and this, she doesn't say what year this was. I was left to care for the office, and everybody else took off. So when some people showed up that had to be showed around and told about things, she had to do it. And she took them different places and told them different things. After they went home, they sent her a package, and this was in it as a thank you. And she thought it was hilarious because she graduated from Iowa Wesleyan. And they were our worst enemies. So she says that she kept this out in plain sight for years, and it was a conversation piece. I bet. So I was out there and went to lunch with her. She said, please take this home with you. I don't want it anymore. I have a couple of these dishes that we used at Ballard Hall, these two, and I've been looking for the little bowl that went with this, a little fruit bowl. I don't have one, I can't find it. I hope somebody turns up with one because it brings back memories. Did anybody else here eat at Ballard Hall? You remember that we always had those little white cherries, the Queen Anne cherries, for dessert, and there were always 8 in the dish. And we would sit there and count everybody's, and once in a while we got 9. That was a red letter day, can you believe, when we got 9 cherries instead of 8? I can't believe that. And this is my sorority paddle. We had to make our own paddle, and we could put anything we wanted to on it. And I'm glad I put my pledge class on, and I put the active list on. And I'm glad I did now because I've forgotten. I don't forget things, but you know, they get away from me. And I thought, you will know some of these names. Jessie Stever is on here. A lot of you knew her in my pledge class. And Catherine Voorhees, my college roommate. Of course, we're still in touch. She lives in Indianola now. And Dove Toma is on here. Alice Fisher, maybe somebody remembers her.
She died.
I thought she did, yeah.
2 years ago.
Caroline Dickey kept in touch with her. And then you'll know a lot of the names on this side. And a man said to me lately, well, what was that for? What did you do with that? I said, come on, what do you do with a paddle? They lined up the actives in 2 rows and we went between them and everybody got a chance as we went through. And I always asked them to use this side, please, and not this side. This would make a mark on you. They didn't hit us too hard. We survived. One of my memories from sorority is of Hell Week. My cousin Christine and I were going through it together, Christine Pedrick, who's gone now. And for that one day, we all had costumes we had to wear, horrible things. I had to dress up like a baby. I had some kind of a frilly something or other, and a baby bonnet, and a baby bottle full of milk, which of course soured before the day was over. And I had to ride around in a little red wagon, which she had to pull dressed as a nursemaid. And we were a sight, of course, and exhausted from everything else. So between classes, she had to come and get me and take me to my class and then go to her class. So I was late to class all day, she was late to class all day. We both got into trouble all day long. And I was supposed to keep drinking that milk all day. I gave up on that after it got sour. This was a fundraiser. Some of you remember the Parsons College Auxiliary, the ladies who lunch or whatever. Every once in a while we raised money for the college. And this was one of our projects one year. We just got these from this place on the back. It's by a man named Gray that I never heard of, and I don't think he's anybody particularly important, but it's rather nice, I think. And we sold these to make a profit for the college. I have 5 or 6 different things we use that way. I think this is the nicest one. Let's see what else. Then this is from a later era, after we came back. This is not from the early time. These are from the early time. Everybody had these. And I brought back as many of these as I could find. And then we have Scholars Who Teach. I hope some of you will look at that. You won't recognize any of us. I don't recognize myself in here. But this has been a while. That belongs to Jean. And I think that's about it. We had these, not when I was a student, but when I came back. We had a frog. And we had a turtle in the bookstore, a lot of little gadgets when we came back. We didn't have any of these when we were students. And some of the badges from some of the reunions. I think that's it. Thank you. Who's next?
Fred? Okay. I have some portfolios. In fact, there's a couple piles here you're welcome to look through when we're done. I just grabbed a few of them and gleaned a little from them. The one pile, taller pile there, is older portfolios from the World War I era. And the one I brought up here is September 20th, 1917, and it says Parsons College opens under leadership of Dr. R. Ames Montgomery. I think he was the president there for quite some time. Many times the advertisements were interesting. Here's a picture of a Dexter double tub washing machine, which is on this picture down here. Then there were many other local advertisers. Here is the Orpheum program, and that was the Moving Picture House, which is, of course, now the co-ed theater. So this kind of tells a story about the era of World War I. You remember they talked about the flu epidemics, and it was, I guess, a case of the swine flu, which now I've read about or heard about on the radio, I guess it was, is supposedly coming back. But belated flu strikes school, dread epidemic quarantines college, drives half of the SATC to infirmary, and chases Ballard girls home. Classes are closed. Flu is no respecter of Parsons. Majority of port staff is incapable for service. This was a port or portfolio. So then it tells over here about the Parsons Smothers Des Moines, but their team was badly crippled due to flu infirmities. Then this one is dated November 30th, 1918. And then this one is December 6th, 1918. And it says, 2 Parsons students die. Influenza epidemic takes toll from SATC unit. And it tells that gradually the hospital list is growing smaller as men recover, and girls and the town students are still absent. But nevertheless, the flu epidemic was evidently abating at that time. I guess we all like to blow our own horn, so to speak. In my case, I'll blow my dad's horn. This is Friday, April 25th, 1919. And my father had returned from World War I and was taking a huge load of college courses. But I see he had time to come out and become a track participant in the spring. Flinch returns to Togs, it says. Big weight man comes back to school and should aid in Wesleyan defeat. Kesey is pessimistic. Let's see if I can find this. Wade Flintspaw, old star, all-around athlete, is back in school and is a wizard with the weights. All the other men are in excellent trim and prepared to put out the best they've got in them for the coach. This was against Iowa Wesleyan, our arch rival, of course. Now, we come to another one. The other group is a little later on, and this is labeled Tuesday, December 9th, 1941, 2 days after Pearl Harbor. And it tells about war with Japan. And there's a little article buried in here that I thought was pretty interesting, if I can find it. Former student on ill-fated vessel. Although at this writing complete details are not available, it has been officially reported that the USS West Virginia has been sunk in the Pacific. Raymond Bennett, former Parsons College student, was, according to his friends, on the West Virginia at the time of the disaster. Benny last attended Parsons in 39-40 and was affiliated with the Alpha Kappa Chi fraternity. So World War II did affect everyone, even back here in little old Parsons at home. You're welcome to look at any or all of these that you'd like. I'll put these and over with their respective piles, and you can take a look at them after the program. That kind of ends my program. Anyone else? Show and tell, Parsons? I think we have one here that needs to show, anyway.
Dean, the microphone's in the corner of that green blanket.
Well, I certainly didn't expect to be on the program, but I showed up and, you know, they're grasping at straws, so. Now, I attended Parsons. I started out there in the fall of '46 and ended up in '58. I had about 8 years in between that I didn't go to school anywhere, so, but I finally made it. I was glad to see one of my favorite professors here. Tim Young. Had a lot of fun. Excuse me. Had a lot of fun with him on the track team, and he taught me a lot of good things. A couple others were Dr. Floyd Von Olin and Marshall Barnes. I got to see Marshall last fall. He was here cleaning out his storage for his mother, and he's living in Worthington, Ohio. If anyone wants his address, I have it. I brought along an old Parsons College reunion thing, which of course happened after the college closed. You're welcome to look at that. And then we have a group of people called the Parsons Friends. And I know Dorothy is acquainted with those and probably some of the others. This is Soupy Camel, and I can't even remember her first name. She lives up at Montezuma. And she's been real good in putting together a list of all the Parsons people that she can find from maybe the 40s and 50s. And she publishes this a couple times a year. Anytime she has new information, she sends it out to all of us. And once in a while we get together for lunch and have a good time. I will say that I have a son that graduated at other school. So I guess they're not too bad either. Well, Gobble would want me to show this off. He always kept Fairfield supplied with Parsons shirts and all this stuff, so that's about it.
Yeah, that's right. And your microphone's right there. Kind of stand behind the microphone right there.
Here?
Here, right.
Right here? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I thought until Fred gave his presentation that I had a unique experience at Parsons College. Right after Christmas vacation, when we started back in January of '46, 2 of the girls in the dormitory in Ballard Hall came down with scarlet fever. Well, in those days, they didn't give you a penicillin shot, and of course. And so the girls who, they said girls could either go home or stay there. And they took care of the sick girls there in Ballard. And I called my parents. So many of the girls went home, and I called my parents, and they said, "No way, we don't want to expose to scarlet fever." So there was a little group of us quarantined in the dormitory. We'd go out for walks in the daytime, and if we'd see anyone on the campus, we'd say, "Unclean, unclean." And we went skating on Crow Creek, and at that time, Forever Amber was just out. And so we took turns reading Forever Amber out loud. And then we took our semester exams in Ballard, down in the kitchen, and they were sent to the chemistry lab to be fumigated. And then we got out just as the semester was over. And then the next semester was when all the fellows came back from World War II. We'd had no men in school, and we went down to the dining room, and it was full of men. How exciting. One of them was J.Q. Bell.
Is there anybody else that would like to come up and share some remembrances?
Got room for another?
Well, sure. Come on up.
When I heard of it,
Yeah, you get over by the microphone here.
I'm Wes Schaefer. Now, there's no relation here, but we've known the family for the past 100 years and so forth.
Literally.
Well, we lived almost a mile and a half back and forth across country. And I just, off the top of my head, I thought, what memories have I really think of when I think of Parsons College? And the faculty itself, the buildings and so forth, the ground, the one that always hits you and the one that shows up here is Bar Height Chapel. And I ran across the picture in Tuttle's History of Iowa.
Here, let me hold that up for the camera.
Excuse me. Theodore Bar Height that I had never seen before, and a little different kind of history on him. Theodore W. Bar Height, born in Newark, New Jersey, April 10, 1835.
There, right there, that's good.
His parents removed the same year to Schenectady, New York, where the family relations had resided for years. His grandfather, Barhead, was a soldier in the Revolution and quartermaster in the War of 1812, and Mr. T.W. Barheit was favored with a good common school education and also 2 years of instruction at the Schenectady Academy, after which he worked with his father at the boot and shoe business until he obtained a clerkship in a store. He removed to Iowa in 1855 and was appointed postmaster at Burlington in 1858. In 59, he engaged in the boot and shoe business and was very successful. So much so that in 1870 he was with a few others organized the Merchants National Bank of Burlington, of which he was elected president, a relationship he held up to this time, and under his management the bank has been one of the most successful in the state. Quite young, he married Miss Eleanor Christensen of Schenectady, to whom he pays a fine compliment in saying that he owes very much of his success in life to her admirable counsels. They have no children, but they have a crowd of friends to enjoy their beautiful home and cheerful bounty of their lavish board. He is wealthy in gold, brick, brought, and goods, but wealthier in good nature, friends, and business thrift and credit. Like his forefather, he is a Presbyterian and he has no time to try the points of politics. Now that's background on the guy with the Barhide Chapel. The guy I always remember is Doc Jennis, the absent-minded professor, a good friend. And the point that always struck me was we had a morning class just before dinner, and Mrs. Jennis caught us and said, "Now boys, winter's upon us. The last thing you do before you leave class is see that Dr. Jennis has got his boots on before he comes home for dinner." He was getting a little absent-minded. He did very, very well otherwise. He'd get up and do a good long physics problem in calculus, but he said, "Now watch, because I don't remember my addition sometimes, and 2 and 2 didn't come out 4. So, and I thought this is different, but one of the last times I seen him was with the Youngs at some function there on the college, went over across the street. He was retired, sitting in a wheelchair. Visited along, and he was telling me an article or a story about so-and-so, and oh, he says, "You know who I mean, Mrs. Jennis." And it kind of struck me for funny, but he couldn't remember his wife's first name there for a little bit. A good friend was his son Jim, and the last time I seen Jim, I wondered if this thing wasn't kind of hereditary. He was back east at the University of Pennsylvania and working for a company there. And around his neck he had a string with a car key on it. I said, "What do you got?" And he said, "That's my car key. I wear it all the time. I've locked my keys in the car 3 times. My wife won't let me be with that. I wear it when I take a shower." So I thought, boy, the heredity thing coming through pretty good. A smart lad, he worked for the Bureau of Ships. You know, they made a little concave mirror for the gun sight. You'd get the rings on the plane and follow along, and it would calculate your lead and all this sort of thing. But they were kind of expensive. You grind all out by hand, and he was supposed to develop a better way of making them. So he pours the material in the centrifuge, spins it at the proper speed, and he makes these little mirrors for about 5 cents a piece, something like that. He would probably be a millionaire if the Bureau of Ships didn't own the patent on this thing. So I thought, what the heck, so much for heredity, but after I get thinking about it, I believe it's beginning to, it was by association, because it's wearing off on me. I'm getting too old. I think that's my buildings and my people. Thank you so much.
Anybody else have a remembrance?
I don't know, did he donate the money for the Barhide Chapel, or why is it called Barhide Chapel?
Yeah, I think the bank, well, yeah, he didn't have any children in any family, and I think he left stocks and bonds from
So
the
Barhide Chapel,
bank in Burlington.
Barhide was the benefactor in his will, evidently.
It
Okay.
was the main contributor to the Barhide Chapel.
Okay, that's
So is everybody here in Parsons a graduate almost? I mean, a bunch of you are, I know.
all. How many are?
Maybe we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Not about 9 of you are Parsons graduates, and some of you are former faculty members and wives of faculty members.
Yeah, I might say one thing.
Sure.
Well, you can say more than one.
Yeah, Vera, come on up here where the microphone is.
Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I want you to. Come on, the microphone's right here. It'll pick up your sound if you just stand right about there.
All right.
This is Vera Young. Mrs.
When-
Tib Young.
When Dorothy lived in Ballard Hall, I lived in the upper class house, which was a house right next door to the Genesis, if you remember, was across the alleyway, where the library, later they had, the library there? No, they had, they built a dorm there, Howard Dorm. And when she's talking about the scarlet fever epidemic, of course, we couldn't go to Ballard to eat. That was the only place you had to eat on campus. So we had to stay in the upper class house. So the college gave us money to buy food to fix our own meals. We weren't sick, any of us, and we weren't quarantined, but we had to fix our own meals. So that was a lot of fun because the few men that were on campus, they came over there and we fixed our meals. So that was a lot of fun. I tried to get Tim to bring along a letter jacket, a Parsons letter jacket. When he came to Parsons in 1946, he coached every sport. You know, not 2 or 3 coaches in a sport, he coached every sport. So, you know, gradually then we got a lot of coaches, but he coached every sport when he first came.
Oh, that's impressive. Thank you. Anybody else?
There's a picture of Ballard up there if anybody wants to look.
Yeah, this is, I don't know how clear this will be on camera, but this is the kind of the Dutch colonial revival style building. Built about 1903 or 6 or so, I can't remember. And torn down, what, about 10 years ago. So I know my mom stayed at Ballard. I remember her.
It was an ugly building.
Yeah. Kind of ungainly proportions.
But we had a lot of fun.
If it had been a barn, you would have thought it was charming.
But it had a nice veranda. You could sit out in front there.
Well, Mrs. Gamreth, you want to come up and tell us
No.
about it? Oh. See, I'm just about ready to name names here.
The calendar about how we ate at the tables with the hostess and.
Oh, come on up, come on up.
Well, you tell us.
What if you both came up together?
No, I'm not going to come up there.
Well, this is Evelyn Gamreth telling me no, so. We're talking about the dining setup at Ballard Hall, and you had hostesses at the tables? Did you have linens and you had to dress for dinner and all that?
Tablecloth and our own waitress, you know, that brought our food.
Now, were your waitresses students?
No, men.
Oh, you had
Well, of
waiters.
course, we had women, there were no men.
And they had one little
So you
like
had,
bolero
you had
jackets
liveried
almost,
servants,
you know,
huh?
uh-huh.
Now,
And whoever was host, different people were host or hosted at the table. It was a square table. And then they brought the food in and you passed the food around, just, you know, it was family style.
so family style
And-
eating
and-
at a,
And we all stood and had grace before we ate. We sang grace. And Dean Dexter, Dora Dexter was in the, well, it was an alcove. And she was at the head up there. And we all stood and sang until, and then when she was seated, then we all.
now who was Dora Dexter?
She was the dean of women.
Oh, Dean of Women, okay. Now, did students take turns being hostess?
Yes,
All right, so etiquette was part of your college
It's
education.
part of our education.
All right.
It was very well done. And we had good food and we learned to eat a lot of things we'd never eaten before.
Well, that's good.
And on Sunday, we had chocolate ice cream with whipped cream on top.
Every Sunday, chocolate ice cream with whipped cream.
on top.
Anybody else have remembrances they want to relay off camera?
I did.
Jean, Mrs.
I won't be
Sells.
on camera. Oh, but speaking of Ballard Hall, they were at the dinner table one day when they were serving pudding with raisins in it. And one of the students said, "What's that?" Another fellow said, "Well, if it moves, hit it with a spoon."
Now, I remember Mrs. Sells as a substitute teacher when I was in, oh my gosh, junior high, I think. And I always enjoyed you coming. I always liked it when our teacher was sick because you were always the sub and you always had wonderful stories about your travels abroad. And it just made everything extra interesting. I don't know that our subs nowadays are quite so well-traveled. But I really enjoyed having you as a substitute teacher.
Thank you.
We also have a few things up there that are from Ben Taylor's house.
Okay.
That are Parsons things, just little odds.
Yeah, we
and
have a
ends.
1927 homecoming brochure, 2:30 at Alumni Field.
Look at those uniforms.
Dahmer Brothers,
Football
Fairfield.
players wore.
I think Tim, would you like to come on camera? Come on up. Well, the microphone's up here if you want to come up front. Now this is the favorite professor our leprechaun was talking about earlier.
Now on this that you've had up here this recently, it's touching me on this hand and then on this side, because I had a relationship with the college and I also had position of fine meetings with the high school and I went through about the same stuff as when I was changing those suits as I was in the Army. Worked with the boys.
So that's your uniform in the showcase over here, isn't it?
Then in the naval with that old suit on, I was really in touch with them, them coming and going. I served in both the Army and the Navy.
Now, how did you manage that?
Well, first I was in the Army long enough until they were letting people go, and I took advantage of that right away. I left the Army. I see that was when I was in my training, and I left it to use the Navy because I knew they wouldn't just let me find a real good branch and roost there and stay on my own good behavior. But I went down to see the Navy on the way out of the Army. This is all in the training time.
And what year would this have been?
Pardon?
What year would this have been about?
Oh,
He
well,
was drafted, drafted into the Army when they first had conscription.
Okay.
And he was out before Pearl Harbor and then
Oh,
recalled.
okay. So you were recalled after Pearl Harbor, and you went into the Navy. Okay.
yeah, and when I found that I could get out while I decided no use
Sure,
in me
sure.
staying in. Well, I found it wasn't that easy. We're going home on the train. I saw they had developed a new program in the Navy, and I went down to the office in the on Greek Lake Erie, and because I saw they had put in the lucky pen where there's men, all of them athletic directors nearly, or new trainers, put them out in the fields and do it.
So that's where you fit in.
Yeah, I decided, no, that's what I thought looked pretty good to me,
Sure.
and I would be able to hold it, but I wouldn't be getting shot at.
So now, did you go to Parsons directly after the war? Did you?
No, this is when the asterisk for me being in the Army was I went down to ask about it and didn't get much satisfaction. And the fellow finally said something about my doing so-and-so in the Army thing if I didn't leave. So I did go with that. And I went up to the head sergeant when I heard that they were enlisting people in the Navy in a new program too. And when I presented him on this new program, it was new men, freshmen, and he said, well, he said, why don't you, that's when he gave me the switch over and start to smell Navy. And I went and they had a program going too that was for young new men. And so I really started to think serious about it when I was still in the Army, though I must admit that. And that didn't sound like real good jelly to me, because the regiment that I was training with, they were moving down into Mississippi to get good and muddy so they skip across to North Africa, where the Army was active.
So you were able to avoid a lot of that by being in the Navy.
Yeah, they did.
Great.
And when I was thinking then, from what a couple of those men gave me the idea, was I'd go and apply for a part-time term in the Navy. And they took me up on that. And a guy that was, this too was in the recruiting office. He says, well, why don't you write a letter over, ship it into Washington, and apply for a job there. And I said, well, I don't like to waste words. I know. No, he said, I think they'll take you right away. Well, anyway, before this had started, I had moved over in the Army and hadn't got anywhere. I was getting out, and they were considering it. And I'm making this too long. Anyway, when I first did leave the Army then, when they were going to move out, there was two men coming walking down through the bushes looking for Lieutenant Young. Lieutenant Young. Well, I said, I think they're looking for me on this letter, and I went up. It was. Now, by that time, I had been tagged with the I was carrying a typewriter around with me with the sect in the office company running around through North Africa. And when these men came down through there, I felt, well, I'm Lieutenant Young in the Army, but I know they're looking for me. It must be because they don't have anyone with the title you carry. And I stopped them in the bushes and they said, oh, you're the guy. I said, all right, you notify on the Navy and get when to come and get in on it. And I went over, got an airplane, went into Chicago where the big training station is in the Navy, and was gonna tie it in, but I titled my kind of a title. I knew that I had 2 days to get a report at Great Lakes, and I used that to fly to Chicago, get on the train and go to Pennsylvania, North Pennsylvania. I was doing it that way, or finagling it, to see my parents. I went to northern Pennsylvania to visit my parents for those 2 days to report in Chicago, and then I jumped on.
Tim, you're making that too long. He asked you
Oh, all right.
if you
Well,
came. Did you come here from the service? He did. Out of the Navy, straight to Parsons.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I was.
Well, thank you very much.
Two jabbies. Okay, well, I went through all that and got
But
in.
what did you teach at Parsons? You were a coach, but what else what did you teach?
Well,
What courses?
I taught some math and some physics, that
Great.
type thing.
Education, psychology.
Education and psychology.
You had to be very versatile. You
Yeah,
had to teach a lot of things.
yeah, that's great. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate you coming.
And anyway, I might just wasted that sort of time a little bit when I reported in the Great Lakes. Then I had the opportunity to pass the one as an officer in one of two areas where they were establishing them. And so I went on one of those and was in the Navy for a spell. And I was in short order. I was dealing with incoming personnel and things, because I figured I had some background on that and start right in. And I took one of those till I got my neighbor up to two or three best ratings higher before I had this suit. But I got that suit then very soon when I was doing work there, and the time I left the Navy, I was in charge of a big outfit where they were shipping them back home. And they had to clear through me then, and so I sent them, before I sent them through the line to get home, if there was anything wrong with them. I sent them to a hospital, which was just adjacent to the office where I was, because they didn't want to send them home not fit for the field. And one tough scene or sad scene, or I don't know what category it would go in, it had been doing this. Because when they were home for their home status, I had to okay that. And that's on new recruits that was coming in. And then when the war was coming to an end, all of the men who were being discharged in the Navy got discharged there. And that's when I was shipping them down here to the hospital. And the gentleman that had been in the South Pacific for some time, I had shipped him out when we were sending out new recruits. Anyway, he was a high school chum of mine in West Middlesex, Pennsylvania. And he was not a married man. And when he came to get discharged, he had a nice set up of illness resulting from overstimulus with South Florida gals. I had gone to high school both with him and his wife, who I'm to send him home to. And never to say I wasn't going to send him home even if he gets insulted to his wife yet. So I sent him over to the hospital to get cleared and over when I shipped him to his wife. His wife come and picked him up in her car in good shape. Okay, I'm going too far.
Thank you very much. I mean, those are parts of the war that you don't think about. I mean, all these little bureaucratic ins and outs. So that gave us a picture of things that went on that we didn't know about. Anybody have any final reminiscences? Frankie.
Well,
Frankie Beatty, you need to get up here by the microphone.
Well, I really don't have any reminiscences.
She didn't wear green though, folks. Should we let her? I guess Betty didn't either, so it's okay.
Not long ago, Betty and Fred and Dr. Tree and I did a little work up on the balcony up there, and some interesting things that we have just in one cabinet up there. There's a Parsons shirt. Gotta go down. There's a band cap. There's a summer straw hat too, and a Jewish yarmulke. I don't know how they got in there, but no, that's the little hat. The Hebrew word for it is kippah, my pastor tells me. And there's an old top hat. Virginia Van Ostren's summer wave uniform is up there.
Now, what's a wave?
Not a whack, but she was a wave in the Navy.
Okay, all right.
She was a women's.
I thought maybe that was a pom-pom squad at Parsons.
That, along with some other Parsons stuff. And then those of you who remember Jack Grant, Jack was killed in service, but his sister gave us his band uniform and cap. There's, and then Ruby, also in this same cupboard that's interesting, is Ruby Bristow gave us a World War I uniform. It's got the puttees and the leggings, the whole bit. Some interesting things there. And some, then there's a Parsons letter jacket with the green and white letters. Then there's one that some of us know better with the rose and green letters. Bill LaRue's Parsons College jacket's up there too. His sister gave it to us, and we're happy to have that. And then there are 4 of the last Parsons band uniforms, 2 hats. And then George Howell, who was a pitcher for the 1942 baseball team, his letter sweater is there. There's lots of other Parsons memorabilia, but I was just particularly impressed because we worked with that, and it's good to know that there's a lot of souvenirs of that around here.
All right, well, I think that about wraps it up. Thank you for watching FPAC. This has been our salute to World War II Parsons College kind of stir-fried presentation. We've gotten a little bit of everything going today. But thank you all for coming, and viewers out there, I hope you enjoy watching FPAC.